Tiffany Turned On. I'm your host, Tiffany Anton. I'm a psychotherapist specializing in sex and relationships. I hope to help you get turned on in life as well as inside of your bedroom. Hello and welcome to Tiffany Turned On. Today, I'm going to discuss gratitude. This is the month of November, which brings us to our gratefulness. And we're going to look at what does gratitude do not only to your brain, but how it is involved in your relationships. I'm looking at the Happiness Toolbox, and that's by Jonah Paquette. I'm wondering what you think about when the word gratitude comes up. To me, it's just the generic example of what am I grateful for? So what am I thankful for? And in this book, he says that gratitude consists of two separate but interconnected steps. One is we acknowledge the goodness that's present in our lives. And two, we recognize that the source of these blessings lies at least partially outside of our own doing. And that gratitude is actually linked to lower rates of depression. It enhances our mood with joy and optimism and a sense of tranquility. We're healthier and we have stronger interpersonal relationships and satisfying romantic lives. And that's what we want here on Tiffany Turned On. Studies suggest that the practice of gratitude may even increase our levels of dopamine in our brains. I've talked about dopamine in other episodes, that this is the feel-good neurotransmitter in our brain that spikes really high when we start dating and experiencing lust. And then when we get into the long-term relationship, the humdrums, our dopamine level goes back to kind of baseline, to how we were before we met the individual. Actually, it returns to baseline after dating 2 years, which is a pisser because we want to keep a hold of that intense, lustful feeling. But the dopamine highs don't last as long as we would wish. You know, some people leave their relationships when they notice that they're not as elated by the other person. And this has nothing to do with that the person is different than they thought or their life is changing in dramatic ways. It's based upon, I don't feel that high. Well, guess what? You're not going to feel that high in any relationship that you have after the 2-year period because, again, that dopamine drops. I'm hoping that you guys have heard about John Gottman. He's really the relationship guru. He's out in Seattle, has a multitude of books. One of my favorite is Relationship Cure. He also has the very popular 7 Principles to Making Marriage Work. I mean, this dude can predict divorce by 90+% based upon his observations and how we interact with each other. So one of his articles in the Gottman Institute. So if you're interested in him, you can check out his books, and you can also go on the Gottman Institute site. That's Gottman. And the article is titled G for Gratitude. And he talks about what gratitude has anything to do with our relationship, and it actually has everything to do with it. Gratitude requires and actually invites us to abandon our own narcissism and remember that we're not alone. We naturally tend to have a small level of narcissism. Now, if any of you are raising teens, they have a huge level of narcissism. But for the rest of us, we tend to have a little bit of a pinch of it, because even though we're logically able to understand that there's a vastness of a world around us, we stay stuck in our head and within our small frame of life. And that reminder is a gift. Receive that gift and be thankful for it. The fact that you are not alone means that you can experience empathy, intimacy, and love. Gratitude is a secret that could put many of us therapists out of a job. Then we wouldn't be helping everybody communicate and connect with each other, right? If couples would shift from defensiveness and toward gratitude on their own, they wouldn't need counseling as much. And the thing about gratitude is that it's easy. Like all we have to do is say thank you for ... And we wouldn't say thank you for leaving all of the laundry on the sofa, right? Because that's a passive-aggressive statement. We would make a statement like, thank you for getting the laundry done today. And then if we're bothered by the laundry on the sofa, we can have an effective communication with our partner, or we can actually get up and fold it and put it away ourselves. So he even says something I find kind of cheesy, but set an alarm on your phone or watch. And when it goes off, send a quick note of thanks to your partner and see how long it takes them to notice. Now, it might be a good tip if giving thanks is not our original language or kind of what comes up to our mind the first. But the second time is if we're sending a thank you text every day, we might go, what's going on? What are you doing? You're sending me all these thank you texts. And if the person says, oh, I'm putting a reminder on my phone, then they might say, what? You need a reminder just to be able to say something thankful to me? So if you guys can just prioritize the thanks in your relationship, it might have a big difference. So commit to thinking about gratitude and injecting it into your relationships. Not only does it strengthen the relationship, the loving relationship that you're in, but it strengthens all of our relationships, our friendships, our family interactions, and with our coworkers. When I reflect on Gottman's statement regarding the importance of giving daily gratitude and saying thank you via text or email daily, it brings me to actually, how does your partner feel loved? And I highly recommend, did I already say that? Highly recommend the John Gottman books. Well, see, I'm going with it again. Here's another high recommendation. And it is by Gary Chapman, and he wrote The 5 Love Languages. Now, I'm going to go through those in a minute. I'm going to state that my recommendation isn't toward his book, per se. It's toward getting online and putting in 5 love languages and get the PDF version. And what this does is it gives you a love language quiz. And everything starts with, it's more important to me too. And then it gives you 2 different options. And I believe it's 30-some questions. And what I recommend that my clients do, and those of you that are listening and are interested in learning your own love language and your partner's love language, is you get the PDF, you print it out, and you complete it on your own. And then what you do is you schedule a date time with your partner, and you can see where you've circled, and you would say something like, Sarah, I believe, like if you go to number 1, I think it's more important to me to receive a hug, and the other one's like, it's more important to me to receive a text or email. I'm not quoting exactly. And so you would have your answers in front of you. And let's say your partner's Sarah, so I was given that example. You would say, Sarah, I think it's more important to you to receive a hug. And then she would look at hers and see if that's what was on par with who she is. And that would be kind of a check for you. And if she goes in return and says, well, I think that what you would like is a hug, and what you had circled is actually you'd like an email or a text. So then she can denote that on her copy. This is the love language that you prefer, or kind of where you stand. And then after you finish these questions, well, actually, when you do it on your own, you finish the questions, you tally them up with the 5 love languages, and it's usually 2 top ones that will really jump out at you. In my opinion, it's not we just have one love language, but we tend to have 2 of these that are the strongest. I know that I am words of appreciation and touch. So if you tell me that I've done something that you appreciate, complimenting me on a physical level, a personal level, an intellectual level, I'm just going to be as excited as can be. And so if you give me these positive affirmations and then you touch me, I am a happy lady. Words of affirmation and touch. So let me kind of go through what the 5 are. And again, you don't need a book to understand what the 5 are. Okay. Number 1 is words of affirmation. So that's making positive statements of appreciation to your partner. So this can be, you look gorgeous tonight, to you cooked an amazing meal, to I love watching you parent our children. You're such a good mom. Or I really appreciate that you prioritize the business party we need to go to. I know that you had to rearrange your schedule. Those are a few examples of words of affirmation. And again, they're just powerful expressions of gratitude. The next one is giving gifts. Person feels love when they receive a gift. 3 is acts of service. That's doing something for them, mowing the grass, picking up their favorite meal, taking the car out at 8 a.m. and getting the oil changed without letting them know. 4, undivided attention, which is really time. So this is a time you're spending together. An example would be one person is sitting on the sofa, the other one's sitting in the big chair, and they're watching the same show together. Well, if a person's love language is touch, and they have their partner sitting over in the other chair, it might be, enjoyable to share that movie together, but it would probably be more of a loving gesture if the partner sat next to you. Now, if touch isn't that prioritized by your partner, and they're sitting in the big chair over to the side, they view that as an expression of their love language if it is, in fact, time. So I'm hanging out with you. I'm here in the same room with you. And lastly, it is touch. And this is the multitude of touch, which includes affectionate touch and erotic touch. I want to remember the men out here that are listening. you guys tend to suck on the affectionate touch. A lot of my couples come in and they'll say, the female in particular will say, well, the only time he touches me is when he wants to be sexual. So men, I want you to stand up and really work on the affectionate touch. That's a hug, a handhold, a back rub, a peck kiss, massaging feet. It is ongoing, regular touch. Because if the only time you touch them is when you want to have sex, then they're going to equate your touch with sex, and then they'll shut down to your touch. Like, they won't want you to snuggle with them because then they think you're going to be pelvic thrusting. So being able to snuggle without pelvic thrusting, being able to rub your partner's feet without going up and started rubbing their thighs or touching on their genitals. Now, if you want to have erotic touch, move those hands up those thighs. But again, strengthen that affectionate language that really helps our partners feel more emotionally safe with us. That you want to touch us because you want to connect with us, not because you just want to get off. When we work with our partner and doing that, I believe you said this and vice versa, and we tally them up, it's not like, well, now you know, or this is who I am, and so I'm just going to touch you and keep telling you thank you all the time. Actually, our goal is to increase our behavior toward our partner in their love language. My love language is words of affirmation and touch. My partner's love language is time and acts of service. Then I'm really going to refocus his or her attention on me differently. So just because that person isn't touching me doesn't mean that I'm not loved. When we increase their love language and they increase our love language, then it really can bring us together. There was a meme, I don't know what it's called. I found it on Instagram. It was a picture on Instagram. I thought it was pretty funny. It's called The Taco Version, 5 Love Languages by Joshua Perez. And so he, of course, breaks this down into taco analogies. Words of affirmation, what does that look like? Your tacos are delicious. Acts of service, I made tacos for you. Receiving gifts, here's a taco, dear. Quality time, let's go out for tacos together. Touch, let me hold you like a taco. So if you learn that your partner's love language is drastically different than yours, think about that taco as an easy analogy for what you need to do to step up and in behaving in ways that are your partner's love language. So it might be your love language to hear things, but they might feel irritated by it. So you would want to check in and say, I really want to show how grateful I am for you. In what ways do you feel that I show gratitude, or in what ways can I show more gratitude? Because the thank yous aren't really working, and I want you to understand how important you are to me. In regards to gratitude, I checked out an article by Brain Phlox, and the article's titled, Discover How Gratitude Affects Marriage. He notes the study, which was published in Journal of Personal Relationships, that gratitude not only plays a role in marital happiness, but it can also help alleviate symptoms of negative situations, and it can protect us from divorce. In the journal, they found that feeling appreciated and believing that your spouse values you directly influences how you feel about your marriage and how committed you are to it. So if you don't feel appreciated or valued, another way I look at it, and many other people do, is, do I feel seen in this relationship? Or am I ignored, invisible? So gratitude is showing your partner that you really see them and doing so in a positive manner. That showing gratitude, even when it gets tough, protects against divorce, particularly women's marital commitment from the effects of poor communication during conflict. The study found that when couples are engaging in a negative conflict pattern, like demanding and withdrawing, or pursuing and distancer, expressions of gratitude and appreciation can counteract or buffer the negative effects of conflict. And again, we're going to have conflict in our relationships. It's about how do we communicate about those conflicts and then going on to actually solving them. How many of you, or I know many people that have the same conflict year after year. Now, sometimes we really do have an impasse that this is a problem without a solution. That's an agree to disagree. And if it isn't vital, we just kind of leave it at that. An easy example is having a Republican spouse or a Democratic spouse, and you're of the opposite party. Okay, we're going to disagree about that. And instead of having conflicts about one party says about the other party, you would just talk about, if even necessary, talking about politics in your relationship. you would just talk about that these are, different views. And you can say, well, I disagree with that view. And if your partner wants your input, or if you find the input important enough to add, then add the input without degrading or minimizing the partner. So it isn't about, I don't like who you are. It's, I disagree with this statement, or I disagree with this political strategy. We tend to get stuck in the cycle of negative conflict when one of our partners, or, can be us, demands, nags, criticizes, and then the other person responds by either attacking, so they plan their counterattack, withdrawing, or just avoiding the confrontation. And that can really lead to the breakdown in communication. Let's think about how hard it is to communicate in general and link that to sex. If we're having trouble saying to our partner, I feel frustrated when the laundry sits on the sofa for 2 days, how difficult do you think it's going to be if you say, I really don't like when you touch me this way? And my tip for that is, instead of stating what you don't like in the bedroom, what you do is you really emphasize what you do like. If your partner is really interested in kind of a rougher touch or kind of a slamming type, banging intercourse, and that isn't your style, then you can say, you can maybe grab their hips, so you can do it by body language and slowing them down. You can touch on their hand and then place it on your body and touch yourself. Again, you're guiding their hand in a softer way. And then you want to validate that, like, oh, that really feels good. Oh, I love it when you touch me that way. And we tend to touch our partners in the way that we like. So let's say we're a person that likes lighter touch and our partner likes more intense touch. So we would reaffirm how good the touch feels to us. And then we would increase kind of our intensity with our own hands, right? So if they like a little bit of an intense touch, we would really kind of grab harder, squeeze harder. And then you can work on kind of those compromises. So sometimes you would have some of that slow, nice, relaxing sex with light touch. Other times you can have a little bit of that fast, hard piece to it. So making sure that there's a compromise, and the way to communicate it is about, I love it when you. Again, don't get passive aggressive. And so I love it when you actually kiss me, and you're not kissing me this time again. It's more like, I was given the previous example, I love your soft touch on my body right here. In the article, 5 Tips for Healthy, Loving Relationships, it's written by psychology instructor Holly Parker. So I'm going to list, the 5 things, and most of them are we know. If we know, then why aren't we taking action to do so? So the number 1 is see the best in your partner and the relationship. Hello? Gratitude. And research on perception and attention shows that we see more of what we look for. So if we are looking for, you never pick up after yourself, we're really going to notice all of those things lying around. If we look for, this person runs the errands, schedules things for the kids, picks up your favorite meal at the grocery store. So we don't want to ignore the things that are bothering you. What we want to do is say, yes, those bother me, and these are things that I really like, because our brain has what's called a brain negativity bias. And when we get stuck in that bias, we really get stuck. Almost like we're blinded by all the great things our partner does, and all the negative things that they do are like swirling in our head and screaming at us. Like, here's that damn laundry again, right? Or this is her 3rd cup she has on her nightstand. Or really, you can't put your sock in the laundry basket? It's laying right next to the laundry basket. So yes, acknowledge those things and discuss them, yet making sure that in your own brain that you're reminding yourself of all the positive things about your partner and what brought the two of you together. So in the suggestion, spend a week looking for any and everything your partner does right. And again, there are many ways to do the same thing right. I give this example in therapy a lot, and I use McDonald's. And I use McDonald's and getting there. So let's say you and your partner are in separate cars, and the goal is to meet at McDonald's. And each of you take drastically different routes, yet you both end up at McDonald's. So that's what makes it, quote, right, is that you both ended up at McDonald's, not whether or not you took the route that was the slowest or the fastest. And think about the discussions that you've had in the car with your partner about, why are you turning here? You needed to turn there. It's faster if you turn there. I'm not talking about if the person is lost, of course. I'm just talking about when you're sitting in the passenger seat and you feel like you're going crazy because they're not driving at a speed that you think is either fast enough or it's too fast. So you're like, gripping onto the seat belt. Or they're not taking the route that you find the fastest. Or if you think whether or not they're even paying attention to whether there's a stop sign. there are many conflicts that occur when couples are in the same car. When you get in the mindset that, actually my partner hasn't had any accidents, and I notice that he or she is paying attention to her driving, and I know he or she is going to McDonald's, and so I'm going to work on my own freaking patience and sitting there, because you have to let go of a sense of control. Okay, so again, the word right doesn't mean my way. That's what's right, is my way, because there are many right ways. All right, number 2, have fun. We tend to have a lot of fun when we're dating, and then we start getting into the routine with our work. Let's add kids to it and their schedules. And I really want couples to keep dating. We have a flip-flop dynamic that's occurring in our society, and that is parents that are prioritizing parenting over strengthening the coupleship. And we know that a strong coupleship actually improves the parenting. So if we flip that around and we prioritize our marriage and we love our kids, then that's what's going to be a happier relationship than, oh, my kids are definitely number one. We can't do event A, B, C, or D because this or that with the kids. I want you to schedule a date, go on a holiday, get wonderful sitters, link to your family so that they can take care of your kids, so that you can take care and nurture your relationship. And if you feel like we always go to the same restaurants or we don't have much to talk about, and I do like couples to actually put things on the shelf when they're out on like a restaurant date. And that would be work, kids, and household tasks. And clients will say to me, well, then we have nothing to talk about. And I would say, well, why'd you start dating? Did you just think the person looked good? We want to shift into just communicating about life, communicate about something that you read, communicate how you're feeling, and doing a fun, different activity. So I think of course, I think horseback riding because I love horses, an air balloon ride, going to an amusement park, riding go-karts. Because what we know is, again, that dopamine drops after 2 years, is that when we do something that is adrenaline fueled, we get a quick boost of that dopamine. Adrenaline can help increase bonding. And again, that of course is positive adrenaline, not like some scary shit is happening. So try to brainstorm on your own and brainstorm with your partner as to what might be something unusual and fun for you guys to do that will increase some of your adrenaline. Now, many of you might be thinking just setting a weekly date or a monthly date is progress. Fine. Let's make that, at least if it's, a weekly date, let's make it at least once a month, something that's kind of off the cuff. Okay, 3, have good sex. Okay, I think that's what we all want, is to have good sex. I gave you some tips earlier as to how to non-verbally and verbally communicate what you'd like sex-wise. Ladies that are listening and their husbands, or actually can be really in any relationship, but just for the sake of talking now. When ladies get in the mindset of all my husband wants is sex, and when he touches me, that means sex, they then start withdrawing from sex, and they view it as he only wants to get off. Yet, if you discover that your love language is touch, and you're consistently turning down your partner, and it's not because your partner sucks at his or her initiation times, but it's like you're saying to them, I'm not going to let you love me, and I'm not going to show you love. Now, the lower libido partner doesn't seem to see this at all. Like, what? That is a big mind shift change that can make a big difference, because you can say in your mind, wow, this is how my partner gives me love. This is how my partner feels love. So it's so much more than just having sex. And again, let's try to make that good sex. Increasing research, this is an article. Increasing research is pointing to a great sex life as it predicting better relationship satisfaction. And it's not the other way around. Do we really need a sentence that tells us that? Good sex helps us to feel more connected. One study was published in the Journal of Family Psychology, examined data from hundreds of couples to determine the relationships among sexual satisfaction, marital quality, and marital instability at midlife. So again, the better sex you have, the more improved sexual satisfaction and marital quality you have. The journal states that they found that feeling appreciated and believing that your spouse values you directly influences how you feel about your marriage and how committed you are to it. Now, what happens when the going gets tough? Having gratitude is actually a protectant against divorce. If you feel seen, appreciated, and important in your relationship, then it makes it much easier to work through the conflict resolution. If you're feeling invisible and you can't say anything to your partner because they either snap or withdraw, well, then how do we experience gratitude? Now, here's the thing. Even if our partner is withdrawn or snappy, we have a choice to continue showing gratitude. So we would want to think about what else have they done today that is a positive influence. And it might be a crappy day. So let's look at the next day. So improved communication during conflict and regular statements of gratitude protects a woman's level of marital commitment. Did you know that women are the ones filing for most divorces now? I found that interesting. I don't have a statistic on it, but I wanted to throw it out there. He elaborates. Importantly, they found that when couples are engaging in a negative conflict pattern, like, see, this is how I talked about, demand, withdrawal, expressions of gratitude and appreciation can counteract or buffer the negative effects of this interaction. When one partner demands, nags, or criticizes, and the other one either responds by withdrawing or confrontation, then this is a problem that can lead to breakdown in the quality of the marriage. Now, people stay in shitty marriages. It's actually, or relationships, but it's actually up to you as to how long you're going to stay in it. It's really important to put in a ton of work, even if you think they're not doing any work, because our change alone can make a subconscious and even conscious change in our partner. And we can even look back and think, I really tried everything within my own ability to make this relationship work. So put in the effort, show the gratitude, be kind, and if you've expressed yourself appropriately, you're not doing so in a crazy, screaming, blaming, demanding way, and you're working on problem solving, and this is a problem that is solvable, and the continued poor treatment or feeling invisible in the relationship or criticism occurs, then you can really assess whether it is appropriate for you to leave. And you can then reflect internally as to, I really did all that I could. As I mentioned earlier, our brain has a built-in negativity bias, and many of us find ourselves stuck on our problems or ruminating. We want to make a deliberate, conscious shift of our attention into what's going well. And a suggestion here from that happiness toolbox I talked about earlier is for you to list one good thing each day, and why this happened and what was my contribution. Now, you don't want to say, I enjoyed hanging out with my dog, because you probably hang out with your dog every day. Or if you're on a business trip, you come back and hang out with your dog. So you want to look at something that's specific to that day. And as you practice it, you're still going to have some negativity bias, but you're going to be much easily able to access the gratitude style of thinking. I would like to end our gratitude podcast with a quote from Wes Angelosi. Go and love someone exactly as they are, and then watch how quickly they transform into the greatest, truest version of themselves. When one feels seen and appreciated in their own essence, one is instantly empowered. As we end, show gratitude, empower your partner, and empower yourself. And of course, have great sex. If you enjoyed today's podcast, check it out on Apple's. Give me a rating. Subscribe to this cast. You can check me out at neworleanssextherapy.com. Soon I'm going to be adding trainings and coaching to my practice, so you don't have to live in Louisiana to get some one-on-one feedback. And of course, I'm going to suggest share this with your friends. And there's my pinch of narcissism, of which we all have. Thank you for listening. Ooh, there it was, gratitude. The music for Tiffany Turned On is provided by Kumasi Afrobeat. If you're interested in more of their music, you can find them online at kumasiafrobeat.com. KUMASIAFROBEAT.com. They are New Orleans' full Afrobeat band. They play to make you move. If you liked what you heard in today's episode and you want to learn more about me, check out my website at neworleanssextherapy.com. I also have a TED Talk entitled I Love Pleasure from TEDx Vermilion Street.